Hey, Brandon here. Welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Week 5 edition of the 2024 NFL Rookie Draft Stock Report. My podcast co-host tonight, Jason DiRienzo. We are going to give you 6 players today, 4 stock up players and 2 players stock down as we are in the 2024 draft process, man. It is beginning and we are here on this channel giving you an early look at these players. We're watching these guys every weekend in college, giving you the insight as to what the 2024 rookie class is going to look like. So if you're interested, you play fantasy, you play Dynasty, and you want a sneak peek at what 2024 looks like, man, we have a ton of content on this channel. We just dropped a rookie mock. We're going to have film breakdowns, highlight films, everything to get you ready. So you play Dynasty, you play fantasy, doesn't matter. Devy, C2C, hit that subscribe button. This channel is dedicated to us fantasy junkies. Enjoy the show.
All right, let's get to our NFL stock reports. First guy I want to talk about is I want to just remind everybody of a player out there that's getting no buzz because he's, and that's Malachi Corley, 5'11", 210. He's built like a running back, but he plays wide receiver. He's a junior. Through 4 games, he's got 29 receptions, 331 yards, averaging 11 yards a carry and 2 TDs. But I'll tell you, I just love this kid's game. Now, he's not going to be a top 10 wide receiver, most likely in the 2024 draft, but I think he's going to be one of these sneaky guys that gets on a team. I think maybe early day 2 draft capital. Early day 3 draft capital, maybe in late day 2. That's how much I really like this kid. He's an explosive playmaker. He's a slot player. He's not going to really win outside, but he is a yak monster, and he is so difficult to get to the ground. He is just one of these players who I think any team in the NFL would love it. And the mock draft that we're going to do, Jason, he was mocked to my Philadelphia Eagles, and I would love to see Malachi Corley in an Eagles uniform. I'd be a little concerned about his production with all the other weapons on that team, but as a slot receiver, as an explosive vertical playmaker and a guy who can, he reminds me of I'm not comparing him to Jalen Waddle, but that kind of toughness, that kind of size, that kind of, explosion with the ball in his hand. And nobody's really talking about him much, but I think when the NFL draft community starts really looking at skill sets and not worrying about production, which a lot of people kind of focus on right now, I think they're going to look at a skill set like this kid and they're going to like what they see. But I'm just here to remind everyone, Malachi Corley is a guy that I like as a player.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. Honestly, I think Kyle Shanahan would love Malachi Corley because I'm not saying he's Deebo Samuel, but he can play that similar role. And I think that Kyle Shanahan would just fall in love with a guy like this. So, my next riser is going to be Troy Franklin. And the reason I'm bringing him up, because you're like, well, Jay, of course he's a riser. Well, man, the more I watch Troy Franklin, he needs to be in the conversation with the Emeka Egbuka and Malik Neighbors as a wide receiver too. I think he deserves it. All this kid does is just produce at a high level. And I see a lot of CeeDee Lamb in his game. I mean, there's only one game this season where he's got less than 100 yards receiving, and he just continually just shows out every single week. And he makes some difficult catches. He's always available, whether it's a contested catch or, just the separation of finding the ability to get open and be there for Bo Nix. And he's QB friendly. There's so much to like. And I think we forget that he's 6'3", like 190 pounds. Like, that's pretty good size with a nice catch radius. So Troy Franklin, it would not surprise me if we're talking about him in the same conversation as we are with Malik Neighbors and Emeka Egbuka come the NFL draft process.
Yeah, he's a twitchy player. I mean, he kind of, another comp that I'll put out there, not really the same size, but like a Devonta Smith. I mean, he's got that, I think,
that twitchiness,
the short area explosion and quickness to, make DBs just miss. I think he's just a good route runner. I love that call. I think he should be a stock riser if he's up there with those boys. Right. Yeah, the second player I want to talk about is Kansas running back Devin Neal. All right, 5'11", 210 pounds. Spoke about him briefly here on the podcast earlier. But, man, I kind of like his running style. Through 5 games this season, week 5, he's averaging 6.8 yards a carry with 5 touchdowns, has 13 receptions for 165 yards. So he is involved in the passing game. Watching that Texas game this week, he had a couple really nice, solid runs. So I'm, of course, looking at it from a scouting standpoint. I think I like his running style. He's like a north and south runner. He's got that one cut getting up the field, but I think he's got some good footwork. I think he's explosive, but I tell you, get this kid in the second level with some speed, I think he's going to dust some players. So I think he's going to be ending up being one of the fastest running backs in this class. And I think that, and I'm on record saying that I believe this overall 2024 running back class is going to be probably okay, but there's not a lot. I think there's going to be so much movement in the list by the time we get to April next year. It's going to be amazing. I think if you print out a list right now of who the top backs are and then what they're going to be in April, I could see a lot of changes. And I think Devin Neal could potentially be a riser to get in the 6-7 range of running backs before it's all said and done going to the draft. So he is my second riser for the NFL stock report.
Yeah, he's been so consistent too. I mean, other than injury, he's always consistent on the field. Yeah, I'm gonna go way off the board a little bit with my next guy, but every time I see him, and I've been watching him for a while, Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech just continues to kind of just stand out to me. I watched a lot of Sarajic Thomas, or Thompson or Thomas the last couple of years, and that's who he was kind of, facing as far as competition. But Brooks always looked better to me, and I've had him on my C2C roster, and this year just looks like it's time for him to just take off and explode. I like his size. He's around 5'10", 5'11", 230 pounds, plays smaller and bigger at the same time. And what I mean by that is he can move like he's a smaller running back, but he can play big between the tackles, and he shows off that play strength. And I like the cuts that he provides. He understands exactly how to execute the cut with the right timing in order to evade, and then just knows exactly how to shift his body and identify open lanes very quickly. And he's a good pass catcher too. I think he had like 26 receptions last season. So far, he's got 8 for 31 this year. But he can do it. Like I said, just because there's minimal opportunity doesn't mean he can't. Right. I think he can. And I really like what I see from Taj Brooks. And there's always these guys that kind of rise out of nowhere. I think Brooks could be a guy that we end up talking about later in the season.
I'm writing his name down, Jason. I'm going to do some films. I'm going to do some films in the next couple of weeks.
Love it.
All right. So there's our 4 stock up players. So we are going to each talk about a stock down player. And I want to talk about USC wide receiver Dorian Singer, 6 foot, 185 pounds. He is a true junior. Comes over from Arizona, high expectations, filling in for Jordan Addison, who vacated USC, and he comes in very explosive, great season last year. I think most people thought Dorian Singer, when Lincoln Riley wants you and you're playing with the best quarterback in college football, there's going to be production. And I know he's got pass catchers to compete with. I know Brendan Rice is there, Taj Washington and Branch and all the guys. Through 5 games, 12 receptions, 157 yards. He has 3 TDs. But I just haven't seen that wow game yet. So the expectations were high. He hasn't lived up to that. And there haven't been any highlight films worth making. And there's a lot of mouths to feed in USC, and I understand that. But from a skill level, I don't think he's doing himself any favors. He's just, one of these days, one of these games, I'm hoping he's the primary target and breaks out with some, some production, some, wow moments, some great catches, and being able to see. But watching a couple USC games, it's really hard to get a feel for his game because he's just not targeted at all. And I think that's going to hurt his draft stock a little bit. So he's my stock down player this week.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that's a good call. I'm gonna move over to my stock down guy, and that's going to be Raheem Sanders. And I'm not going to judge him based on the fact that he hasn't been on the field, of course. But at the same time, I do feel like he needs a full season, because we have to remember he's a converted wide receiver playing running back. And sure, he had 1,466 yards last year rushing, but I have a lot of concerns about what I see from him. I think he dances too much in the backfield. I think his vision is okay, but definitely makes some of the wrong reads. I think he needs more experience on the field, and I was going to feel a little bit better about him with this upcoming season, watching for the things I have concerns about and seeing if there's improvement there, and not being able to see that yet kind of concerns me. So, because I know he needs to be on the field, and being a converted wide receiver, obviously the receptions are going to be there. So that's something we can kind of hang our hat on, but I need him to be a much better decisive runner, and hopefully he can get on the field and execute that a little bit better. He was back on, but he wasn't really running at his full potential in this last game. So hopefully that, he continues to get healthy, I see the development, but for right now, I mean, already wasn't that high on him, so I'm definitely stocked down on him right now.
Yeah, that Texas A&M game we were talking about earlier too. He missed 2 pass protections that led to some pretty significant
Yeah, pass
hits.
protection has never been his thing anyway.
Yeah,
So
and I mean,
that's,
you
that's
would
another
think,
problem.
yeah, but you would think that with that size, with leverage, being that big physical guy, he would be able to take on those defenders. But in any case,
Yeah.
so there's our 2 stock down players. There you guys go. There are 6 NFL draft stock players for the 2024 class. Hope you enjoyed that.